Hi, I'm Isaac Feldberg from the America's SAP User Group, ASUG. I'm here at SAP Sapphire and ASUG Annual Conference, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by three very special guests. And we're here today to talk about SAP HANA and the evolution of this transformative technology between your businesses. In getting us started, Stefan, do you mind introducing yourself, saying a little bit about what you do at SAP?
Sure. I'm Stefan Beuerle. I'm heading the BTP HANA and Persistency organization at SAP, which is a global team that is responsible for the vision, the strategy, and the execution of the entire SAP database technology portfolio, which is including SAP HANA and SAP HANA Cloud as well.
Thank you. Patrick?
Well, thank you. So basically, in my role, I lead the relationship between Intel and SAP. So I'm responsible for our strategy, overall relationship, but also taking care on the partner ecosystem from SAP, such as the hardware OEMs, cloud service providers, and the global SIs.
Thank you. And Jan?
Well, Jan Krüger, my name. I'm having the CTO function within Team SAP at Intel. So my responsibility is the technical alignment in partnership with Stefan and his entire organization to make sure that all the technology we jointly develop make it into the market and deliver on the customer requirements that we both try to meet at the end of the day.
Thank you. And Stefan, I'd like to start with you in talking a little bit broadly about the evolution of SAP HANA. Mm-hmm. If you could speak a little bit about how SAP HANA has evolved, but also how the Intel Xeon capabilities and the technology partnership between Intel and SAP has driven that evolution.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So the history of SAP HANA is quite long, so a decade plus of innovation. And it started all with the invention of in-memory computing for a database. And back in that days, it was when the partnership actually started with Intel, with a joint mission and vision of really going into high-performance computing for these kind of data volumes. And from a proposition point of view, it was all about performance at the core and center of driving business value. And that's where the co-innovation, software-hardware relationships, how that all started. And there's been quite many innovations throughout that. And specifically, around performance, right? And also, when we took SAP HANA specifically and also optimized it through the generations of Intel's Xeon processors, and we did the optimizations for the fourth and fifth generation. For example, we have seen 40%, up to 40% improvements on the transactional processing, which really translates into faster decision making and more transactions in real time, right? And also the invention that from an Intel side with the TSX was helping a lot on how we can optimize the software to fit the hardware and really optimize it, right? Mm. And at the end of the day, as we speak, more than 90% of SAP HANA customers are actually running on that powerful combination.
Thank you. And when you're thinking about the milestones in that joint development, could you speak a little bit about that with an eye to what SAP customers felt in the strongest way their organizations, what made the most impact for SAP customers?
I think historically, if you look at all of the different innovations and the partnership that we have, as I said earlier, performance is the core and center of the value proposition. And obviously, there's quite many different functionalities that help drive analytical scenario, that help drive transactional scenarios, that customers really benefit in terms of real-time processing, right? But also, if you look into just recent innovations that we had, right, with all of the cloud deployments, energy consumption comes to mind as well, mm-hmm. right? Where we had a chance to look into early versions of the Xeon 6th generation as well. And when we did the first test, what we have seen with the efficiency cores as well is that we can maintain a similar kind of performance, but we see up to 60% of power consumption reduction, right? Mm. Which is quite powerful, right? And very, very meaningful also in terms of running smarter and greener systems at the end of the day. Right?
Thank you. And Patrick, to bring you into that, to speak from an Intel side, what can you say about how Intel is supporting SAP in terms of improving SAP HANA, and to speak to that from the Intel partnership perspective?
Yeah, thank you. I think the foundation of our relationship between the two companies is really, deep level core engineering at platform level, silicon level, software level. And, with that enabling, we're basically, driving, more performance, which then also results into a lower TCO. That's going to benefit the customer, right? Because they can do more with the same platform. And, in addition to that, we're also having, you can essentially say, Intel and SAP, we drive, the transformation in various segments and verticals. So from healthcare to retail, transportation, financial industry, you name it, right? And from a collaboration perspective on that engineering side, we have, different motion, right? So one is performance optimization. And Stefan, you mentioned it, how important that is, right? So in terms of, SAP HANA S4, we really, that's requiring a lot of computational needs, right? And, with Xeon, we basically design a product that is really capable to deliver on that. Another piece of, our motion is, our collaboration, around the legacy work. And also, it started, 20 years ago, our collaboration. So that means there are a lot of, SAP customers out there which rely on our platform, both in the cloud, but also on-premise. And as we have seen, quite a shift in the market, so customers started to migrate to the cloud, start to deploy their workloads in the cloud. So we have, started a lot of enabling work as well with the cloud service providers such as Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, which is, quite important. And last but not least, there is AI and data analytics, right? The buzzwords. And, as SAP is essentially working on their future use cases, we're supporting that part with, dedicated, AI support, which comes from our integrated AI accelerated technology in the Xeon processors.
Thank you. And to kind of expand a little bit on how all of those joint motions come together, can you talk a little bit about the GTM programs in place that Intel is working to really get this out to the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think at Intel, we've got, those two, parts. One is we are enabling the platform at the technology, and then we want to help our partners to scale those technology in the market, drive the acceleration of the product adoption. And so that's why we work with, the key partners. It starts with our hardware manufacturers. That's the cloud service providers that I mentioned before. But there is also, the relevance in the entire landscape of the global system integrators. So that's where we, kind of glue the pieces together and drive our go-to-market programs together with these partners.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jan, to ask you about some of the underlying technology in these Intel-powered SAP landscapes, what would you say about some of the innovations or enhancements that have made the biggest difference on a technology layer?
Yeah, certainly. So over the 20 years or more optimization and core engineering with SAP, there have been many things we've done, as Stefan already alluded to. But I think to pick one of the examples, Stefan already mentioned the transactional synchronization extension, as it's technically being called, TSX in short, that is helping SAP HANA to really search for single or multiple values in the database table at an enormous speed, right? And this is just one example of where we came together to determine how can we help this particular feature to be much faster on our next generation product. And that's how this particular accelerator was invented and then brought to life. And over the time of adoption, SAP then implemented the necessary changes so that at the end of the day, customers benefit from this very fast response of HANA. So they can search for a value in the database table and it comes back basically instantly, which is the promise of what we've had 20 years ago with Hasso-Plattner. Right. Of releasing an in-memory database, this time to value, as you called it for some time, that was super important. So this is one example, but as Patrick also said, there are many more accelerators we have in the platform, and the value is really within driving those to market through the ecosystem. So system vendors like OEMs and to the CSPs, so that the objective is always to enable SAP in the broad market of hyperscalers and OEMs to deliver their services and solutions to all the customers worldwide, wherever they want them, whether this is in Europe on the cloud, or they want it in Africa in some remote location, or in Australia in the middle of nowhere, where you have a mining system where you have more remote systems, right? So really trying to meet those requirements with technology underneath, and through the partnership making sure that those make it to market, because this is a timely effort. It doesn't happen overnight. We are planning products for years before they come into market, and that's why we are really valuing the partnership with SAP and sharing information early on to really determine, is that new feature really going to help you on some of your business problems? And if yes, then let's make it work and make it real.
Thank you, Jan. And when we're looking at this through the lens of the global enterprise currently, of course, and you're talking about data, you're talking about the power of an in-memory database. We're looking down the barrel of this AI explosion in recent years, and SAP HANA has a vital role to play in ensuring that enterprises can actually harness the power of those AI capabilities. Could you speak a little bit, Stefan, about the AI capabilities that are already available within SAP HANA, as well as how the Intel partnership is helping to support and advance some of those capabilities?
Sure. So looking at it from a HANA and specifically also HANA Cloud perspective, there's a whole bunch of innovations that we are driving in the product, right? In terms of also how do we really have a fully scalable and price performant in-memory cloud fully managed database, right? And as we speak, AI and AI technologies obviously play a vital role in this, right? Since about a year, we do have a vector engine as part of the HANA Cloud portfolio, right? Adding to the multi-model capabilities of the engines. And through that, we can basically store and process, information in vectors and do similarity research, which is very relevant for many of the Gen AI scenarios, right? Also, as we speak, we just launched in last quarter the Knowledge Graph engine, right? Which is yet another multi-model capabilities that we added, which is very relevant as well in the AI context, right? Because knowledge graphs basically store relationships of information, right? And make them semantically, understandable and searchable, right? Which is adding a whole bunch of semantic context into the AI processes, right? And last but not least, also what we just launched is the Gen AI Toolkit, which basically lets you explore your data in natural language queries and thus get a more meaningful insights into your data as well, right? So there's a whole lot of innovations that are happening on the database layer, right? And all of that is optimized and tuned in the combination with the underlying hardware and infrastructure to make it like as performant as possible, right? And that's again where the partnership comes in. And back to also what Jan said, right? Many of the things are happening in early conversations to make sure there is a hardware-software co-innovation. And once the hardware is ready, the software is ready too, right?
Perfect. And that's a beautiful segue to talk about the recent addition to the Intel family this year, which is the Xeon 6 processor family. Patrick, would you mind sharing a little bit about that recent process on the hardware side with Intel and how that development is already kind of driving benefits for SAP customers?
Yeah, we launched Xeon 6 recently. It's an amazing product. As it says the name, 6th generation Xeon processor. It basically has a number of additions, and this time it comes with members of the family. So there is a P core, performance core, and there is an E core, efficiency core. And basically they address different purpose of workloads. With E cores, energy efficient cores, you have up to 244 cores, which really allows you to address the applications and the environments where energy efficiency is just top of the priority. And with the performance cores, you go for the max per core of related to performance, which is great for databases, which is great for HPC workloads, but also great for AI. And it also comes with up to 128 cores. So we really increased core counts massively. compared to the previous generations. And in addition to that, we're building up our workload accelerator strategy. So we have in the 3rd generation Intel Advanced Matrix technology. That is an AI engine and an accelerator to enhance the performance of AI workloads, which is resulting that you essentially can perform AI workloads on the Xeon processor. So that's one of the examples of our accelerators.
Thank you. And Jan, to kind of cue you to talk about taking what Patrick has laid out here, thinking about what that means for the SAP landscape overall. This is transforming a lot of what SAP customers are able to accomplish in their landscapes. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, certainly. So for me, Xeon 6 is really not like just an evolution. I think it's more like a revolution comparing to the previous products, also for workloads like SAP HANA. And the reason for that is that we offer that different product flavors with the performance product and with the efficient product. And that's the first time where customers can really choose on whether they optimize their SAP landscape for delivering really the highest performance for those customers really needed, like highly transactional workloads like in retail, for example. Or we have customers that are seeking to optimize the energy consumption of their SAP landscape and beyond. And those can go with the efficient course because they don't sacrifice performance. They deliver a similar performance than the other flavor, but at a much, much lower power consumption. So with nowadays everybody aiming to turn more into a more sustainable enterprise that is paying into that bill, let's say, positively in reducing the overall energy consumption, that is reducing the carbon footprint. And so that is really revolutionizing also the way customers deploy and use SAP Landscape, whether this is on-premise or with HANA Cloud Edition, even in the cloud, where then customers can utilize those. Additionally, I think what's also super important is the scalability that has increased with Xeon 6, with the performance course in particular, because there's an ever-growing demand for more data being processed by especially the largest enterprises we've seen on this planet, and their data is growing continuously. So we are being able to achieve twice as much performance and capacity at the same time with the new product family. So that allows those large customers really to scale up to sizes that we've never seen before. And it meets their demand, right? They want to scale up a system to very large configurations to maintain the value that SAP HANA and S4 or Business Warehouse you run on top of it is promising to deliver. And the in-memory capabilities are doing that with the power of Intel inside. That's really what makes Xeon 6 unique for now, and we're looking forward to kind of scale this out into the market now, going forward, as we've just started on this journey with more systems to come throughout the year in the cloud or on-premise or through SAP RISE.
And to that point, I mean, in terms of that revolution, Stefan, to bring it back to you, when you think about the Xeon 6 processor and that revolution, what are the capabilities that are new there that SAP HANA has been able to harness most effectively and that have made the biggest difference in terms of the development of this database?
Yeah. So historically, SAP HANA throughout the years has been doing a lot of performance tuning through parallelization as well, right? And Patrick said it earlier, right? The Xeon 6 processor family is coming with more cores, right? Which means there is more compute power that you can use for your data processing, right? And from a customer point of view, that allows to have more capacity on smaller systems, more commodity servers, right? And you can go for 2 sockets or 4 sockets where you had 8 sockets earlier, eventually, right? So you get more power out of that. But also to what Jan said earlier, right? I mean, also the demand on data is ever growing, right? So there's at the same time scenarios and systems that require more capacity, right? And the good part there is as well that there is, some processor types in that family that also allow for more memory capacity by having more channels for memory, allowing to grow capacity and having a higher bandwidth as well, right? So I think that's how it helps to accelerate, which is also translating into value for the customers, right? From a HANA perspective, and from an SAP HANA and HANA Cloud product point of view, what is interesting as well is that the efficiency cores and the performance cores are being served by the same binary code base, right? So it allows us to deploy depending on the need of the system and optimize either for performance or for energy efficiency, right? I think the last point to mention here is that we talked earlier about the vector engine and AI scenarios, right? What we are also looking into is how we can drive optimizations and innovations on things, for example, on floating point data types optimizations, right? So which is hopefully also helping us into additional accelerations and benefits.
Thank you. I appreciate you laying out the scope of that, and it's clear that the capabilities, the applications for this are endless and continuing to be discovered. And to that point of kind of continuing innovation, I wanted, and Jan, maybe you can speak to this first, but I wanted to ask about this new platform that SAP, Intel, and Microsoft are collaborating on for SAP customers. What can you tell us about that work and the direction that that's led in, and what are you ready to share at this point?
Yeah, sure, Isaac. Happy to do so. So Microsoft, Azure, SAP, and Intel came together quite a while back and determined how could the next evolution of cloud instances for SAP could look like. Because there is this growing demand of performance and there's a growing demand of capacity. But on the flip side, for the partner like Microsoft, there is an additional cost pressure coming. And the challenge is also how to balance the amount of memory available to the amount of performance. So these are the three vectors kind of we all three live within. And so we've started to look in what can we do about it. And as part of Intel's technology innovation, we've been developing a new memory connection technology, like a new interface, we call it, that's called Compute Express Link, which is now an international standard that all hardware vendors support nowadays. And within this Compute Express Link technology, there is a specific capability called flat memory mode that is transparent to the workload above, and that allows SAP to adopt this technology seamlessly. And for Microsoft and Intel, the advantage is that it allows us to balance the amount of memory and compute much better than we could do in the past. And it also allows us to add more as needed. Right? So now we are starting on this journey, and throughout the year there will be the next iteration of Azure's M-Series instance being released, and that new M-Series instance is the first incarnation of this partnership where we use the Xeon 6 technology with all its capabilities combined with the Compute Express Link flat memory technology, particular designed for SAP HANA workloads in the cloud, and will bring those capabilities to market to meet the customer needs and balancing performance and capacity by enabling Microsoft to do this in an, let's say, commercially viable way, right? I mean, we can ask for many things, but at the end of the day, it needs to be commercially viable for all parties. And I think this is the uniqueness of this outcome of this three-way partnership over the years, that we've been able to create a new type of instance that meets SAP's requirements or end customer requirements and implement it through SAP. But it also helps Microsoft to actually deliver on those needs with a platform that we can provide. And since all of that is standardized, it is not going to be a big issue for anybody. And as I said, from my point of view, it's going to be also a start of a new era for cloud instances, because this technology is going to grow, it's going to be evolved, and there's going to be more capabilities coming into the future. And those will be adopted about maybe the next generation, right? Nothing has happened overnight, but slowly but steadily we're going to innovate to help SAP and SAP's customers to continue adopting cloud as their landing zone for SAP Landscapes, while not giving up on all the other needs they have: performance, capacity, resiliency, security, you name it, right? There's so many things they need to comply to. And I think that's really unique on this partnership. And the outcome is pretty happy for us, and we're proud to bring them to market later in the year.
Thank you, Jan. And Stefan, to build on that, could you speak a little bit? I mean, this is transformative not only for SAP customers, but for SAP itself. I mean, what would you add about the importance of this platform for SAP?
I think it goes along with what Jan just also said, right? When there's multiple things happening at the same time. We talked about AI earlier, right? But still also the transformation into the cloud is for sure one, right? And there is a high demand on optimizing for price performance, for more efficiency, more flexibility, right? And I think that's where also then specifically the combination, what Jan said with the Intel Xeon 6 processors and the Azure M series comes really interesting as an option into that offering and the market, right? Which is also then beneficial for SAP and SAP's customer, right? I think the other element, talking about price performance optimizations and flexibility in deployments is what Jan said about the Compute Express link, right? And the options that are getting in there, flat memory being like the first step into this. But there's also an expectation that is like at the end of the day, helping to further optimize on an infrastructure level, which is then also helping to optimize on a software level, starting on the database, but then also for the rest of the software stack, right? So I think there is quite some opportunities in that as well.
Thank you so much for answering that question. And as we look towards the future, Stefan, I'm curious what milestones you're most looking forward to ahead. You can start us off there.
I mean, we just talked about a couple of things, right? And as we also talked about the Compute Express link, right? I think there is more steps ahead that are interesting. We are also from a database and HANA perspective specifically. We are jointly with Intel also looking into what does that mean from a database processing point of view. How can we leverage that technology going forward as well in terms of driving additional performance optimizations, right? And flexibilities.
Thank you. And Jan, from the Intel side, what milestones are you most looking forward to ahead?
Yeah, thank you. So I think another area where we want to innovate and kind of look into forward is the topic of on AI. I mean, this is nowadays all over the place. And as Patrick and Stefan also alluded to, we have already capabilities in our platform, and we want to work with SAP and partners to further drive them in adoption, basically, to determine what capabilities help most within the requirements SAP and the partners of SAP has. And that can either be on things like you mentioned with the floating point pieces, that could be also around additional capabilities on the vector engine itself that we further optimize. But it's certainly also related to large language model operations, so that now we are, in my viewpoint, entering this era of inferencing, right? So you could turn these large language models into use, like what SAP does through Joule and many other services they offer. And I think the Intel technologies are underlining those activities as well, and we want to support SAP on this journey with the technology we offer. And I think that's kind of the next milestone, besides working on making HANA even better than it is today and meeting the customer needs we're seeing in the market coming.
Thank you. And to wrap us up, Stefan, I'll pass it back to you. We've been talking today about how SAP and Intel are collaborating to ensure that SAP customers can get the most out of their deployments. When you think about the roadmap ahead for that, what excites you most, and what progress is being made to help SAP customers go even further in that respect?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of excitement going in many fields, right? Both from a hardware point of view and hardware innovation point of view, from a software point of view. AI for sure is all over the place, everywhere. That's driving a lot of new scenarios and capabilities, right? And I'm assuming that will continue for a while as well. At the same time, I think that also specifically cloud deployments, right, and efficiencies, scalability, price performance optimizations, also back to the Compute Express link and eventual opportunities there. That plays a significant role, right? And I'm looking forward to see a lot of innovations coming from that side, right? I think also from a customer point of view, it's interesting, right, to look into what are the innovations that are happening in the industry on all of the different layers and how to best benefit from them, right? And say having deployments on these infrastructure ready as they go, right? As a factor of being kind of competitive in their markets as well. And ultimately, I would say, in terms of excitement as well, the partnership that we are talking here, right? I think there is a lot of excitement going forward to keep that partnership going, right? And follow on the successes that we had in the past on hardware, software co-innovation, and see what's coming, right?
Thank you. And really thank you to all three of you, Stefan, Patrick, and Jan, for joining me here today. We're here at SAP Sapphire and ASUG Annual Conference. I hope you have a great rest of your weeks, and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Isaac. Thanks for having you. Thanks, Stefan.